This is the iPhone 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max.
What's up guys, Victor here. The Apple launch event happened not so long, and some of my favorite tech reviewers were at this event, and they had some pretty wild thoughts about this event, about the products that were released, and the event itself. So let's just get right into it. So we all wasn't expecting Apple to announce much at this event, because they already announced most of their products earlier this year, like the new Apple Vision Pro, the new Mac Studio and Mac Pro, and the new 15-inch MacBook Air.
All right, so Apple's Wonderlist event happened. It was pretty interesting. Honestly, not that much stuff actually got announced. I mean, we knew it was going to be iPhone, Apple Watch, USB-C, not that much other stuff. But it was more the stuff in between the lines that was kind of interesting, and some other random stuff that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. So let's talk about it. So the iPhone 15 gets the A16 Bionic chip from last year's iPhone Pro. It gets the dynamic island, of course, from the Pro as well, some new colors, and a slightly updated design with a little better curve radiuses, radii, slightly nicer feel in the hand, and a satin soft touch back, and a slow USB-C port. Same starting price and screen sizes as last year, $799 for the iPhone 15 and $899 for the iPhone 15 Plus. So then the iPhone 15 Pro gets a new 3nm A17 Pro chip. There's these new brushed, lighter titanium rails to replace the stainless steel, a faster USB-C port, a customizable action button on the side to replace the mute switch, a new set of cameras, and just the 15 Pro Max gets a new 5x telephoto camera. And the prices are kind of sneaky, so it's still $999 for the 15 Pro, but the Pro Max now starts at $1199 because it's also starting at 256 gigs.
This is the iPhone 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. Let's start with the base 15 and 15 Plus, which have had 3 minor changes and 3 major ones from last year. The first being the design. The iPhone 15's come in a whole suite of pastel-y colors, which are all pretty inoffensive. I mean, no one's gonna hate them. But me personally, I strongly prefer just proper, vibrant, confident colors as opposed to all this washed out off-white hoopla. But what I am really glad about is the softer edges and the matte frosted finish on the back. It may not be as cool as the very literal edginess on the last year's iPhones, but I would take comfort any day. You pick these phones up and instantly you notice this is like 200% more comfortable than the last phones. The display itself is even brighter at up to 1600 nits or 2000 nits if you're in direct sunlight. If you haven't already used a 2000 nit display, it's pretty staggering. Like, it will not just be readable in broad daylight, but actually bright. There's a new ultra-wideband chip, wideband being one of the ways that your iPhone communicates with your other Apple gadgets. One more thing though, and this is something I never really thought I wanted, but now that I've seen it, this is nearly as big of a deal to me as the actual camera upgrade itself. When you shoot a photo with the 15 now, your phone can capture depth information automatically, which means you don't need to sit there and think, what mode should I be in right now? You just take the shot, which means you can take the shot quicker, and every single shot has the perk that afterwards you can go through and make it a portrait, and even switch between the different focal points within that shot. But now it's time we talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that the entire industry has been talking about for the last 6 months. Apple has shifted from a Lightning connector to a USB-C. Or in other words, they've shifted from a custom Apple-made connector to the industry standard. And then you've got the action button, a button for which you can decide what it does, which is something it seems like Apple tested last year with the more niche Watch Ultra, before now rolling it out to the mainstream with the iPhone. And my hot take is that I like it, but I don't love it. The key perk of an action button in my mind is that it is a faster, more convenient way to trigger a command that you regularly use. But when I'm holding my phone, and I imagine when you're holding your phone, my fingers are never all the way up here to be able to do that comfortably. At that point, it might actually be easier to just program multiple taps of your power button to execute that same command. I mean, that is how I set up my iPhone 14. Triple tap on the power button turns the screen grayscale. Ever since the day that Apple announced they were switching rounded sides for sharp, flat sides on their phones, I've been counting down the days till they go back to having curves. I mean, it just makes sense. Your hand is not an angular object, so neither should be the single device that you hold in your hand for the longest time. Oh yeah, there's a camera upgrade. Obviously there's a camera upgrade. So there's a slightly improved ultra-wide camera and a bigger sensor for the main camera, which they're saying is going to make up to a 2x difference to low light shots, so we will definitely test that theory. 24 megapixels is now the default resolution output for the main camera. And then probably the biggest camera change is on the iPhone 14 Pro Max only. It's a new telephoto lens. It started off as a 2x, it then became a 3x, and now it is a 5x zoom camera. This is the first chip in the world to be based on a 3nm process. Why is this a big deal? Well, every other top-end chip in the world is based on a 4nm process. And basically, the smaller that number, the smaller the transistors that make up the chip.
So let's initially start with the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 15 Plus. So we do have a familiar design, but we have new displays with smaller bezels and the dynamic island. So this is here to stay. No longer do we have the notch. Dynamic island is across all of the iPhone 15 models. Now, the display is also brighter. However, it is not a ProMotion display, which means that it only has up to 60 Hertz. Now, I was hoping for at least 90 Hertz to give you a bit more of a smooth experience. Now, the build has changed slightly. We have a contoured edge and we have some new colors. We've got a blue, a pink, a yellow, a green, as well as a black. We do have a matte finish across the board in the back, which does feel a lot better compared to the glossy. Now for the cameras, so we do have a primary camera as well as an ultra wide. The primary camera has a new 48 megapixel sensor, which is a larger size sensor, so you can get better low light images. And because of that high resolution, you're going to be able to shoot all the way up to 48 megapixels, but you'll also be able to get 2 times lossless zoom, which will be using the middle part of the sensor. So now a lot of these features are thanks to the new chip. This is the A16 Bionic chip, the same chip that we had on the iPhone 14 and 14 Pro Max. So it's a really good chip. It's more efficient. It's also more powerful. So you're going to be able to get better battery life. And with the iPhone 15 Plus, it's going to have the best battery life out of the bunch. iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, they now feature titanium bodies, which is more durable and it's also lighter. We've got a nice brushed finish on the edge. There are 4 colors. There's a natural, a white, a blue, as well as a black. Let me know which color you think is best. We still have the contoured edges like we have on the iPhone 15s, and we have a new internal chassis structure which makes it a lot more repairable, so it's easier to replace the back glass. But what's really interesting is the telephoto situation. So the iPhone 15 Pro has 3 times optical zoom, but the iPhone 15 Pro Max has 5 times optical zoom. So this is a brand new lens which is using kind of periscope technology, which we've seen before, but Apple has done it their own way. So that's going to give you 5 times optical, but up to 25 times digital zoom. And you'll be able to set different focal lengths as your favorites. So if there is a particular focal length that you like using with the primary camera, you're going to be able to do that very easily. The iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max have USB 3, whereas the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 15 Plus have USB 2. Finally, pricing. Now, the iPhone 15 Pro does start at the same price as the iPhone 14 Pro did last year, so that's $1,000. But the iPhone 15 Pro Max does start at $1,200. However, one thing to keep in mind is this is for the 256 gigabyte model, so there is no longer a 128 gigabyte model. So if we do compare the iPhone 15 Pro 256 gigabyte model to what the iPhone 14 Pro Max launched at last year, then that is the same price. So a lot of people were afraid that the prices are going to be increasing significantly. That is not the case. It is pretty much like for like.